appreciate the time that you have taken to listen to this today. I'm Elise as Another Truth here on YouTube. I hope you're all doing well and you're taking exceptional care of yourselves. Today, I'm going to delve into my thoughts, or should I say my opinions, into Katie Joy's sort of involvement in this Gypsy Rose Blanchard's situation. Now, I'm not going to talk so much about Gypsy Rose Blanchard because I think that relationships are complicated, situations are complicated, humans are complicated. Down the Rabbit Hole at Bedtime had provided good insight into some of the interesting family dynamics that might be of interest to people to kind of have a more well-rounded view on what is going on in that. That is kind of the road that I would take if I do decide to talk about this situation, apart from Catherine Joy's involvement. And that channel also brought up an excerpt of a panel discussion in which Katie Joy expressed concern on two fronts. And it certainly did make it seem like that her son could be easily manipulated into unaliving people on the basis that he has autism. It sounded like that definition expanded to people with autism in general. I think that is a dangerous, broad stroke comment to make. I don't know exactly when this panel discussion occurred, but I remember that people with autism were the latest punching bags for the community, kind of the scapegoats for everything that goes wrong. Now it's people with certain types of personality disorders, but that's another story. My issue with Katie Joy in this situation is how very ableist she is against her own child. I also believe that his civil rights, that his disability rights were broken. Now, the ADA, from my understanding, doesn't necessarily cover exploitation on the internet. It doesn't cover this kind of thing that I understand. Now, I'm not 100% clued in on disability law. I am researching that from a lay person's understanding, and I am in talks with people who are involved in disability law because I have my own situation I need to pursue, because I personally believe I was discriminated against because I disclosed I had a personality disorder, and this was just for a volunteer group. So not everything can be outwardly dealt with. Sometimes you have to go in a roundabout way to get some information to bring a problem into light so that things can be legislated on. I think if her son ever had to hear that his mother set him up for failure with that conversation, and he understood the implication of that, he will down the road. But now he'd be destroyed. But I think maybe he already understands how his mother really feels about him. I think Katie also says these things to be a part of other people's stories, other people's experiences, because she wants to be a part of other people's stories. I don't understand it, because she could just as easily have her own story about her son or about her relationship with her son. I would think that she would make a way for him to become a supported, strong individual person. Now, I'm not privy to knowing all those things, and I don't really want to get into too much what he may or may not have received. I'm going by a lot of what she has said and what she has done in her own videos, which have concerned me. And I'll repeat, I think it's a violation of his rights to be exploited in this way for gain, for clout, and all of that. I do think this is a disability justice issue, in my opinion. And it puts him in a very dangerous spot, because people with autism, I mean, it's a spectrum, right? But not everybody reacts to things in the same way. They're people just like the rest of us, just like all of us. And that's not just they. We are all, one human unit. But it takes away from the greater perception, the greater sight, that there are many ways to see the world. And she classed her son as a potential murderer. Oh God, it makes me so sad. Because he's autistic. And she did it for clout. And she did it to ingratiate herself into this particular community, in this case, where it is gravely inappropriate. Now, the dynamics, the Gypsy Rose Blanchard dynamics, is so complicated. Because just because somebody manipulates or convinces doesn't mean that they don't have their own things going on. And I think that that's what Down the Rabbit Hole at Bedtime was trying to address. Now, I didn't get an immediate sense of where they stood with all of this. It was just a way to kind of see all sides of this and how very tragic it is. Why Katie would want to involve herself in that and break her son's civil rights in involving that is beyond me. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. He has the right to have a level of privacy. He has a right not to be endangered by lies and falsehoods. This is the part of this that breaks my heart, and it makes and I see this time and time again in a lot of things in the community. I've experienced my own things around this. I know the pain of that. I know the consequences of being marginalized because of a disability. And so-called normal people, so-called educated people, so-called people in certain positions think they know it all when they don't. They're not even open to understanding a lot of things. Katie Joy does not think from a perspective that people are people. People can do bad things whether they're considered a good person, not whether they do good things or not. That she has virtually set her son up for failure in her own mind. But I think that betrayal started a lot earlier in that relationship, and she set up things. And it doesn't surprise me she would use her son as a talking point. Her son's disability. And I don't even know if he's going to consider autism as a disability, because he has a right to refuse that label. He has a right to refuse certain supports around that, especially if it doesn't match his goals of being an independent member of society. But I should think that as a parent, she would get a level of support, a guidance, parent classes to help her see that he is not a being just labeled by his medical stuff that she has said that he has. None of us really needed to know all those specifics. But if anybody doesn't know what they're talking about, it's Katie Joy, indeed. And this latest connection, I should say involvement, in the Gypsy Road Blanchard situation and case is so dangerous. And like everything else, it's going to backfire her, and it eventually impacts her child, and she doesn't care. I'm happy to explain more down the road. And I don't know what else to say about this. Usually I'm quite angry, but I'm really sad about this situation. To hear her actually say that, and understanding what the ramifications of that is, and not only that, but for all people on the spectrum, what that means for them. I can't speak for everybody. I can't speak for everybody else. I'm just one person with one opinion among other opinions. Anyway, I'm going to close this for now, so I hope that you take care. And if you're going to experience the projected snowstorm this weekend in the Northeast or wherever you are, be careful, be safe. It's just another thing we have to deal with.